Philippines. Would this not pose greater challenges and risks to the industry? And if yes, how can we mitigate that?
All right. Briefly, please. EJ.
Very quickly, definitely, like what I mentioned earlier about talent leakage, that's one major risk. With AEC coming into play, what's going to happen is a few things. One is companies across the region are going to move out. We've already seen that from a banking side. Some failed attempts by banks in Singapore and Malaysia to go into Indonesia. But a lot of the banks have already spread across different parts of the region. Telcos have also spread out. We've seen Axiata, Singtel, and they've moved out. We think that these two countries will lead the way, Malaysia and Singapore, because of the capital that's available in those countries. Now, what's going to happen then is, as these companies move out by those vertical industries, there's going to be further demand for talent as well. So talent flow, just like what happened when visa restrictions were reduced. If you remember 2006, 2007, intra-ASEAN travel visa restrictions were reduced. And then what happened was low-cost carriers came into the picture. We saw people flying around. Today, CEBU Pacific is one great example, Air Asia and so on. So similarly, you're going to see talent move across the region. Now, that is going to be a near-term issue for countries like the Philippines, countries like Thailand, Indonesia, and elsewhere. Now, over time, what's going to happen is, in the medium to long term, you're going to see talent coming back. Because these individuals who've gone out there will then come back to develop those specific industries in country as well. So I think for those of you who are seeing attrition rates at high rates or issues around labor, I think you're going to start seeing attrition rates go slightly further up. And there will be some issue around talent leakage in the near term. However, having said that, there will be new opportunities and investment coming in. And to my point earlier about investments in certain industry sectors, we should then pull talent into those as well, away from the call center, maybe into banking, into telcos, into manufacturing as well.
All right, thank you so much, TJ. Karthik, briefly, please.
On the flip side, this could also be an opportunity. Right? Let me take an example of different Central Eastern European countries that joined the EU. I know this may not be exactly the same thing, but there was always a concern that people from Poland and Czech Republic will start moving to the EU. Yes, that did happen, but what also happened on the positive side was companies in, say, Germany and France started getting a lot more comfortable moving work to the Poland and Czech Republic. So while in the short term, as TJ said, you will have a talent problem, you could also have a situation where companies in Malaysia, Singapore and Hong Kong feel a lot more comfortable moving business to the Philippines. So there is a positive side to this as well.
Just one thing I want to mention before I forget. Now, the model for AEC is different from EU. It is not a monetary community, not single currency. So there will be issues there. There are issues around legislation. So there needs to be a harmonization in compliance and legislation as well as we move forward. So I think these are some of the issues that we will face. And the companies will face as well. So you still need to have work visas and so on. So I think there will be selective leakage in certain areas of competencies. So I think the financial industry here, because of the talent that you have, and travel and tourism industry and so on, that's where you're gonna get hit.
All right, thank you so much, DJ. And to basically wrap up this discussion, I want to ask Benedict Hernandez here of CCAP a final question. Earlier we were talking about the global problems, the regional issues. If there's a fallout, is the Philippine contact center industry ready for it? Or are you already starting to feel it?
Rico, it's okay to take her question to and integrate it with your question because she's been there for some time.
I'm asking so many questions. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon to everyone. So I'm your next door neighbor. So my name is Hoai Pham. I work for VNPT Global Investment in Vietnam. And as you know, Vietnam is a potential country, and we have a young population. We have rather well-educated workforce. And we also have designed to develop offshore contact center in Vietnam. But however, I think we still go around and around while our our next door neighbor, Philippines, becoming the world #1 in offshoring contact center. So I would like to take this precious chance to ask your advice for Vietnam for us. Thank you.
Yeah. Who would you like to ask a question to? One analyst?
Yeah, I think any advice is precious.
What about JT? Would you like to take that question? Briefly, please.
I don't think I have a full answer, but I think your point is noted in terms of most of the economies in this part of the world. You see a lot of commonality in terms of fairly young population and high growth rates and so on and so forth. But you'd also see low per capita GDP, which means your the amount of poverty and those aspects are not yet fully taken care of. So that's the background. The reason I'm saying that's the background you just want to keep in mind. So I think lessons from Philippines or India or others, you can basically you need a few ingredients in terms of youth and the manpower availability, supply side which is there. Education is another one, and skill development another one, which I think Vietnam would need to cover certain. And keeping it brief, to cover certain gap there. And besides the legislation and the policy, which is fairly I think that's fairly progressive in terms of most of the legislation, not only linked to outsourcing and otherwise. Those three things, if they're there in terms of education, skill, the intent, and the legislation of the government. And then I think rest of it is more commercial issues of getting the the industry up and running, getting some of the multinational who are maybe operating in Philippines and other geographies to get in there and so on and so forth. So I think these basic ingredients needs to be there to make that happen.
All right, thank you so much, JD. We have to just accommodate one last question from the lady on the floor. Yes.
Thank you very much. Good
Briefly,
afternoon.
please.
I'm Dr. Vince from AMA Education System. I'd just like to pose a question or a query. When will these wonderful regional analysts and local players would take the advice of Dr. Villegas a while ago? Because he said Cagayan de Oro should be included in the map. AMA Education System established AMA University in Cagayan de Oro since 1998. We have believed that there are wonderful pool of talents there. So we just like to you are wishing to know when do you plan to consider that advice.
All right, so maybe let's ask Bradley here, because you have a contact center in Cebu. Do you plan to open in Cagayan de Oro?
We've actually looked at different areas, CDO, Davao. The other week I actually went down to, I say it wrong, where's one of my staff members? It's that place I went to, Ozamis?
Ozamis Oriental.
Yes. So,
or Ozamis Occidental.
One with the airport.
Okay.
So anyway, so we went there, and there's a great talent pool out there regionally as well. But I was actually going to say there was one question that's burning from my perspective as well. And mind you, I was in London 2 days ago, so I'm rather jet lagged, so I'm running a little bit behind time. The question to the group, and I think it's very prevalent to everyone here, about how do you deal with the perception or the forecast in rising costs, as in labour. Because as the economy increases, what's going to happen is the cost of labour is going to increase. The reason why I say that is look at Australia, for instance. The average labour cost there now is just horrendously high. When I was running a call centre in there, an agent was costing us anywhere between $40 and $60 Australian an hour. You convert that into pesos and that's a lot of money. All right, so the question is how, and I think I'm speaking for everyone here, that's a very important question. How do you deal with that? From my perspective, you can't really deal with it. It's a free market. The free market will go up and down accordingly. What happens is when the labour cost starts to go increase, it has a ripple effect. It actually causes increased costs inside the company. The company then has to price, or the cost, the charge to clients has to increase, and then what will happen, it'll go up to the point where you'll become non-competitive, right? So then all of a sudden you're going to swing from offshore to onshore again, because onshore then become more attractive. So from my perspective, there is no real answer. You just literally have to roll with the punches. Correct?
All right, and many of those issues will be discussed tomorrow. Oh, my goodness gracious. One last. You are the very last. You're part of that movie earlier.
I joined CCAP so it could help make change.